Hi, thank you for using My Court Coach. I'm Jalen, and I'm going to be your instructor as we navigate through Form DV 108, Request for Order, No Travel with Children. Typically, this is attached to your Request for Child Custody and Visitation Order, DV 105, and it's specifically going to relate to child abduction orders. So if you are asking the court to make child abduction orders so that the child is not abducted from the state of California or the county of wherever county you're at, then this is the form to use. This is only applies if your child is at risk of being abducted. So you want to complete your name, whether you're mom, dad, or other. Again, other can be a legal guardian or somebody that has custody of your child, and then the other parent's name. And this child must be a child in common with the other party. So make sure that you're not completing this form for your child with some other party and you're afraid that this particular party is going to abduct them. That would not be appropriate because the other party doesn't have any custodial rights over your children. So there is no need for an order for their stepkid, for example, to have any child custody and visitation orders. So do you think the other parent may take the children without your permission to another county, another state, or another foreign country? And you would need to list yes on one of these three questions. And if it is yes, then you do have to identify the county, the state, and the country. So it could be Mexico, Arizona, and Orange County. One of those three would suffice, or all of those answers would suffice for all three areas. And it's asking if yes, is the other parent a citizen of that country? And so if they are a citizen of Mexico, you could go ahead and write yes. If you're not sure whether they're a citizen of Mexico, it's always best to explain that here at the bottom that you are not sure, and not necessarily check one of these boxes. So also it says, does the other parent have family or emotional ties to that country? Then either check the box yes or no, and you can just explain whether you do know whether they're a citizen or not, but perhaps you're not sure whether they are a citizen, but they do have, family there or property there, family that are friends there, they do business there, things like that. That would help explain the tie to that foreign country. So why do you think the other parent may take the children without your permission? So hopefully this is because they've actually not only told you that, but they've taken steps to make you believe that they are going to take your children away from you. So if there's a current visitation and custody order, they've violated it or threatened to violate it. They do not have strong ties to California. So if they're actually, a national of Mexico, they live in Mexico, everything's in Mexico, and they actually just come here to see the kids. And now you're afraid that they're going to go to Mexico and never come back because of these threats or because they've done that before and you struggle to get the children back. C has done things recently that make it easy for him to take the children away without permission. So have they quit their job? Have they closed a bank account? Have they sold or gotten rid of assets? Have they applied for a passport, a birth certificate, or school or medical records? Have they sold their home? Have they ended a lease? Have they hidden or destroyed documents? So if any of these apply, you want to go ahead and check off every single box because that warrants the court to issue a no travel order. Now, has a history of, so domestic violence, child abuse, not cooperating with me in parenting, or child abduction. So if they have done this before, you make sure that you check off that box. If they're not cooperating with you in parenting, then you of course want to check off that box. You are almost always going to check off that box, because if you are in this situation where you do need to file for a change in custody and visitation, then it's because they're not cooperating with you in the parenting. Child abuse, so if you are asking the children to be protected under the restraining order, then because of child abuse, then you certainly want to include that, as well as domestic violence. Domestic violence and child abuse are the same, but if there is no domestic violence against the child, but it's just domestic violence against you, then you would just only check off the box domestic violence. Now, I also want to say that this is not like all of this can be with other parties too, because it just says has a history of. It doesn't say has a history of in this matter. It's has a history of. So if they have restraining orders filed against them in the past, or have been charged with domestic violence in the past, or a child abuse, or child abduction, or just not cooperating in parenting, well, that one's specific to you. But the others, if they have a history of doing that in their other cases because they have other children with other people, then you certainly want to make sure that you check off those boxes too. So F requires you to explain your answers, and we skipped over one has a criminal record. So if they have a criminal record, then it is you have to go ahead and check off this box. So it is prudent for you to go ahead and check off for E. For F, you want to explain all of your answers, and you can explain it by, stating that they texted me on this day stating that they were going to take our children to Mexico and never bring them back. And here I have it in a text message. Maybe they texted it to you. Then you can go ahead and send that text message to the court. And when I say send, you could print it out and attach it and send it off to the courthouse that way. Now, the court wants to know, what are you asking for? So check all the boxes that apply to your case. So post a bond. So you're going to ask the court to order the other parent to post a bond for a certain dollar amount. If the other parent takes the children without permission, I can use this money to bring the children back. So that's the purpose of the bond, is the money that is required in order for you to travel to, for example, Mexico, and be able to bring the children back. So if you wanted to put $5,000, $10,000, then you can go ahead and do that. So posting a bond, I ask the court to order the other parent to post a bond for X amount of money. If the other parent takes the children without my permission, I can use this money to bring the children back. And so this is important because this is the money that you can go ahead and use to try and to travel to a different county or country and bring back the children. And so if you think that's going to cost you $5,000, $10,000, you would need to list that on there. And at some point you are going to have to justify that dollar amount. So if you know it's only going to cost you $500, but you're asking for $5,000, you're going to have to explain that $4,500 difference. Do not move without my permission or court order. So I ask the court that the other parent to order their other parent not to move with the children without my permission or a court order. This is a given. You should always check off this box because the children should never move without your permission or a court order. They also cannot travel without your permission or a court order. So you ask the court to order the other parent not to travel with the children outside of, and then you could list whatever it is that you want to list. So this county, California, the United States, or some other county. Notify other state of travel restrictions. So I ask the court to order the other parent to register this order in the state of, for example, Arizona, before the children can travel to that state for visits. And so that does assist with you trying to obtain the children. If the other parent in fact says, you know what, I'm not going to bring the children back, and they're out in Arizona, and now you're going to have to file in Arizona to try and have those orders be enforceable. They should be enforceable because they are a California order and you guys are abiding by a California order. But when you're in a situation where the parent has abducted the children and they're refusing to return them, then that's a different scenario. You would need to ensure that the orders would be registered so that you can get the DA involved, the district attorney in that state, to assist you with enforcing this order. So that's important to register it if you are facing the abduction. So in the purposes of abduction, you do need to register the order. But if you guys have a California order and part of that order is the other parent can visit the children in their home state, then you would not need to register that order. All right, so turn in and do not apply for passports or other vital records. So you're asking the court to order the other parent not apply for passports, and they have to turn in passports and other documents such as visas, birth certificates that can be used for travel. So if they're using these documents of the children to go and travel to Mexico, and there's clearly an order saying that they can't travel to Mexico, then you're asking for those legal documents to be with you or locked up in a safe or with the attorneys, whatever it might be, to ensure that the children are no longer at risk for being abducted. So provide itinerary and other travel documents. So if the other parent's allowed to travel with the children, then I ask the court to order the other parent to give me, before leaving, the children's travel itinerary. Absolutely, you should always have that. Copies of round-trip airline tickets. Absolutely, you should have that too. The address and telephone numbers where the children can be reached. This is something that you should absolutely always have. And an open airline ticket for me in case the children are not returned. And then any other requests. This last one is not typical, and this is only in abduction cases, the open airline ticket, in case the children are not returned. So the first three is very common in child and custody visitation cases, but in abduction cases, the open airline ticket is something that is unique to that scenario. So if the court does feel that the other parent can travel with the children, but it has to be within certain conditions, and this is the other condition, then the court will go ahead and order that. So make sure you do request that in case the court doesn't grant you the no travel restriction. Notify a foreign embassy or consulate of passport restrictions. So I ask the court to order the other parent to notify the embassy or consulate of, let's say, for example, Mexico, of this order, and to provide the court with proof of that notification with 7 calendar days, for example. And so if the children are in fact traveling to the state of Mexico, then you do want to notify the foreign embassy, and that's a great order to request so that the government can work with you in obtaining your children back pursuant to your California orders. So foreign custody and visitation order. Ask the court to order the other parent to get a custody and visitation order equal to the most recent U.S. order before the child can travel to that country for visits. I understand that foreign orders may be changed or enforced depending on the laws of that country. So this is very, very important, especially in a child abduction case, because let's say the children are going to China, for example, and in their jurisdiction, I'm just using an example because I know nothing about China, but let's say in their jurisdiction, in their country, men are only allowed to have child custody and visitation, and they are assumed to be the primary parent. Let's just say that was the example. Well, if that's the case, then you would want your current custody and visitation order registered over there that states, actually, no, you, the mother, has primary physical and visitation rights over this child as well, and therefore your dad cannot be the one that will have the children indefinitely pursuant to their laws. So that's just one example of how this would become relevant, is that the orders or the laws there are just so drastic than the laws here in the US that it would make sense to go ahead and register those orders so that, or to obtain orders that are equal to that. So even if you two have to reach an agreement for this custody and visitation order before the child travels over there, so that's a requirement, a restriction, then that would be very great for you to also order and provide you that additional protection so that you know that, worst case scenario, I could always come back and bring back my child if the parent threatens or does in fact try to abduct the child in a different country. And you would have that open airline ticket in order for you to go to China to obtain it. And you also have the other parent paying for it too, because you have the bond. So these are very important requests, and you should certainly take advantage of them. You're going to need to date it and sign it and send it off to the courthouse. I hope this was helpful, and good luck.